Yes, good morning, everyone, again. Welcome to the TTN August quarterly training. I'm sure everybody can hear me. If you cannot hear me, please just do by show of hands. I'm sure everyone can hear me. Someone says no voice. You might want to, maybe rejoin, please. But I'm sure everybody else can hear me. If you can't hear me, please just put in the chat box loud and clear. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So if you can't hear me, maybe you would want to rejoin and, maybe your network would correct to that. But I'm sure everybody can hear me now. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone. I bring greetings from Dr. Kehinde Wani, who is the Executive Director of the Transformational Teachers Network. She's passionate. I've not seen anyone who is as passionate as Dr. Wani in trying to see that teachers are deemed and respected as professionals. Our greatest joy, our dream would be a time where teachers are put on the same pedestals as doctors, as pilots, as those professionals, and they are given their due accolades. That's our greatest dream. And so that's what TTN2 is all about. Somebody said they can't hear anything. Would you want to rejoin? You might want to rejoin. But if you can't hear me, please just thumbs up. So I'm sure it's not just me. Okay. Yeah. All right. So yeah, people can hear me. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I'd like to know where everyone is joining in from. I'm so impressed. I've seen a lot of Philippines. I'm also interested in knowing how you guys got, the link and all of that. So if you can put in the chat box, people from Philippines, how did you get in touch with this training? Where did you get it from? Igbobi, of course. I trust Igbobi people to be here. Okay, so Lagos, yeah, through social media. Wow, good, great. Thumbs up to us. Philippines also. We are family and friends. Yes, we are. Shagam. Yeah, Lagos, of course. Lagos has to be here. Ogun State, Facebook from Port Harcourt. Yeah, keep it coming. Siagao, good place to swim. Okay, I've never been there. I don't know what that is. Igbobi College, Education District 1, thumbs up to the Ministry of Education for that. Also, big ups to them. Big ups to Igbobi also. Big ups to Igbobi. Education District 1, yes, great. Enugu, thank you for joining. Ogun State, Up IC, yeah, Igbobi College, Education District 1. Anybody else from Education District 5? Wow, social media, District 1, Batangas, I guess that's also in the Philippines. Education District 5, Education District 4, beautiful. Thank you all. Meadow Hall. I've seen my boss there, Mrs. Obafisoye. Thank you so much. I know you guys have just gone through Edu Camp. I have brought you guys here again. Meadow Hall. I'm so sorry, and everybody that joined Edu Camp, I'm impressed. As in, Edu Camp was a blast. If you joined Edu Camp, I believe that you're on another level right now. And if you missed the Edu Camp, I want to just encourage you to join next year. Meadow Hall, thumbs up to you guys, because you guys are at LPSS. I know LPSS most. Yeah, LPSS, great to see you guys. Vetland Senior Grammar School, Yaba, Lekki. Great to see you all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking time out on a Saturday where I know there are a lot of Owambe, even though I know Owambe might be a little bit difficult right now due to the fuel hike and all of that. Yes, about 1,000, 1,005. I pray that we would get over that very soon. All right. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all. Port Harcourt, I see you. Thank you so much. So, we would like to go into this. And so, as usual, would have, an icebreaker. And I'd like to bring our icebreaker mistress. Mrs. Tominweke. Mrs. Nweke, are you here? I can see. Yeah, I can see that you're here. Yes, so I'll just hand over to Mrs. Tominweke to take over. Mrs. Tom,
Hello, good morning. Good
not
morning,
here.
everybody. It's so
Good
good to be
morning.
back with you today. Um, Thank you so much, Abayami. Thank you very much. Dear teachers, welcome to this session. Um, I know that, as Abayami said, very few people are as passionate as Mrs. Wani, the CEO of TTN, about teachers, but I can boldly say I'm a close second to her. Um, Thank you for joining in today. Oh, I'm not doing. Thank you all for joining in. I hope you can see me and hear me. Can you indicate if you can see
Yes, we
me?
can.
Great.
Yes.
Oh, Mrs. Okel, was so good to see you. So good to see so many faces. Welcome, everybody. This is such an interesting topic today. Bloom's taxonomy is always will always have a special part in my heart because I believe it's really the bedrock of everything we do in the classroom to ensure that our learners are actually learning, not just, recalling knowledge. So very quickly, I'm going to try to share my screen. I hope that, one moment. Can you all confirm when you can see my screen, please?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you very much. So I have a series of icebreakers, just three today, just to get our brains, moving a little bit. So very first one, very easy. Just spot the difference. That's all. So easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? So I'm giving you just 10 seconds to spot the difference. As soon as you spot the difference, please put it in the chat very quickly. Put it in the chat. Abayami, can you help me watch out in the chat? Can everybody see my screen? Abayami,
Yes,
hello?
the table. Someone says the table. Someone says line in the frame. Someone said the
Okay.
charts on the wall, the zigzag
5,
frame,
4,
the frame
3,
on the wall, the left pockets,
2,
the books,
1,
the
and thank
drawer,
you.
frame on the
Thank
wall.
you. Thank you. Let's see. Let's see who got it right and who didn't get it right. Some people said the drawer. Drawer. Oh yeah, let's calm down and look at it. Is there any difference in this drawer, please? Eh? Here we go. Here we go. Here are the differences. Here are the differences. Yes, someone said the frame in the wall. Someone said the left pocket, but no one said her hair. No one said her hair right here. This corner right here. Right here. This one goes deeper in than this one does. The one on the left goes deeper in than the other one. Can we all see? I'm sorry, I cannot, for some reason, I can't see the comments.
Oh, okay. Can you just check your
Okay.
charts?
Yes. Yes, I see the chat now. I see the chat now. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Very quickly, like I said, this is going to be the fastest icebreaker ever. Very quickly now, for the next one, I'm going to ask that we put our hands up, maybe one or two people or three people. And we are just going to try to find the words in this picture, the words on the picture. And I'm giving you 15 seconds only. 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, and I have some people have written the answers, but I have some people have raised their hands up. So I'm still going to call them. But if you could just select two people, please, to share what they can see. There are 6 words, and I've seen that people have picked the ones
Mrs.
that,
Judith.
okay,
Judith. You
let's
can
go. Let's
unmute.
hear you.
Agugi Judith. Is she?
Yes, I'm on. Good
Okay.
morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, I can see the word cut.
Who are
Man.
Yes.
The cut is
Yes.
on top. I can see man.
Yes.
See.
Yes. 3. There's
None.
6 words. Sorry?
None.
In front, that word is, there's something else in front of the known. There's a UN.
Unknown.
Unknown. Yes. Yes.
Just
Unknown. What else? What else can you see? 4. Does anybody want to help her? Can somebody put that? Because someone
So,
volunteered to
Mr.
help her.
Olukayode Odujobi.
Okay. Okay. Let's go.
Mr. Olukayode Odujobi. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the much I could see that have been
That's all you
said.
could see. Okay. Who else is volunteering to help? There are 2 more. There are 2 more words. We've seen cut, we've seen man, we've seen sea, we've seen unknown. Yes. Okay, we have some hands raised up. Can we ask Abanom Ngozi?
Okay, yes, those are good morning. Those are the words that I could see too. Unknown, sea, man, caught.
Okay, so let me give you a
Basically.
clue. Let me give you a clue. There's a word somewhere here with the boy in the green blazer that has earmuffs on his ears. There's a word there. Can anybody see it yet?
Tell.
Adaku Okafo. Tell, yes, tell. And there's one more word in a little girl's hair. I won't tell you which of the little girls. There's one more word in a little girl's hair. Sorry?
It looks like occur.
It looks like occur, right? But it's like, this is it. Okay, let's look at the answers here. Can we see the answers?
Cool.
The word in the little girl's hair is cool. So we have 6 words. Cut, see, man, now. Did anybody spot now? Noun and then unknown and tell as well. And finally, I have one more slide. And this one is bringing us, we've juggled our brain, we've woken our brains up. So bringing it back home to what we are doing today on Bloom's taxonomy. And I'm going to give you some jumbled words. The tip I'm going to give you there is that all these words have to do with Bloom's taxonomy, and I expect you to please try your best to unscramble them. Are we ready? Thumbs up if we're ready. Thumbs up in the chat if we're ready. Are we ready? Yeah, we're ready. Let me see a significant number of people ready. Yeah. Yes. Okay, let's go. I'm going to start it now. You have to unscramble the words. They're very easy. They all have to do with Bloom's taxonomy. Okay.
So you're in larger.
So
Increase that. So I'll go see what one post. The first time go.
That's what I was doing.
So let's see who is doing this for us.
Please mute.
If you don't like
Can you please mute? First one, I made the first one. The first one is so easy. Okay, let's go. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing answers. People are dropping their answers. Yes. I don't know, Mrs. Okel. I don't know why we're here. Everybody seems to know what we're doing here already. Yes. Critique, design, infer. Remember, fantastic, fantastic. Well done, everybody. Well done, well done, well done. Well done. Name, yes. Apply, yes, yes. So, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Yes. So these are the answers. Fantastic. Apply, understand, analyze, create, name, infer, classify, compare, critique, and the last one is design. Thank you all so much for participating. I'm sure that by the end of this session, all of us would have gained further knowledge in how to use the Bloom's taxonomy much better, in daily teaching, in our daily teaching, in how to develop questions using the Bloom's taxonomy, how to evaluate learning using the Bloom's taxonomy as well. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for having me here with you today. And I'm going to hand over back to Mrs. Okel, to Abayomi now to introduce the speaker, Mrs. Okelwo. Thank
Thank
you all
you.
so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much. I think MENA no means something.
MENA is also something.
MENA
It
means
does.
something. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
MENA means something. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was really, 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 really good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I'd just like to read it's okay. Well, very brief bio. She's going to be our trainer for today. So Mrs. Fatima Okewo is an education consultant. She's a practicing teacher, a leader at Meadow Hall Group with almost 2 decades of working experience in teaching and leadership. Mrs. Fatima Okewo is a subject matter expert at Meadow Hall Consult, sharing 21st century teaching approaches with various schools. She's proficient in the pedagogy of both the British and Nigerian curricula and is passionate about emotional intelligence, teamwork, and collaboration for optimizing team performances. So please, with a show of clap, I'd like you to welcome Mrs. Okewo, who will be taking us through Bloom's taxonomy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, where is she? Okay, yes, Mrs. Okewo is definitely here. She's definitely here. Yes, thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much.
You, Mr. Bayomi. Thank you. Unfortunately, I can't enable my camera. If that's okay, I'll continue that way.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So I want to share my screen. Good morning, everyone. Pardon me, I was logged out of the meeting. Mr. Bayomi, I also think that you should please be on standby to share my screen. I'm struggling with my network here.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
I feel you need to share it.
Just a minute.
I'm getting it now. Okay, I think I'm there, Mr. Bayomi.
Okay.
I'm there. Yeah. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
It's still loading.
Okay.
Okay, it's up.
Right. Thank you. I'm so sorry. The network is horrible. Good morning, everyone. If you can hear me, kindly put a thumbs up or a word in the chat box. I would really appreciate that. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I can see thumbs up. I can see the hearts. Thank you very much. So I'll go right into it. My name is Mrs. Okelwa, and I'll be taking today's session on Bloom's Taxonomy. I want to believe that it's going to be an interesting session, and honestly, it has to be extremely interactive. That means we all have to be involved. We have to type in the chat room. We have to respond. We have to contribute so that it's, so I look forward to learning from you as we share this session together. Thank you. So today's topic is learning Bloom's Taxonomy to improve students' learning. So I'm going to be asking you a few questions regarding Bloom's Taxonomy. So I would like to know, how have you used Bloom's Taxonomy? Please type in the chat room how you have used Bloom's Taxonomy. We've heard of Bloom's Taxonomy. We've been using it one way or another. So please type in the chat room how you have used Bloom's Taxonomy. I want to believe that we have teachers here that have interactive, and it will really make this session useful when we put in our suggestions, our thoughts. Okay, in my questioning skills, well done. I have used Bloom's Taxonomy in preparation and planning. Wow, well done. Right, so I can see a lot coming in. Wow, this is a wonderful group. Okay, let me quickly play a video for you. This video is available online, but we're going to look at it, we're going to listen to it, and we're going to understand it. Can you hear? Can anyone hear?
It's not playing yet.
It's been playing on my side.
Okay, so we cannot hear.
So what do we do, Mr. Bayomi?
Could I try and, is this the link? If that's the link, I can just play it via YouTube.
I also send the link to you directly. Would that be okay?
Yes, that'll be fine.
I've sent it.
Okay.
Okay.
Bloom's Taxonomy is a toolbox that teachers or students can use to classify.
Should I stop sharing?
Yes. I can just share myself. Okay.
Bloom's Taxonomy is a toolbox that teachers or students can use to classify and organize learning objectives. Its most popular version is based on the cognitive domain and assumes that learning should be structured from easy to difficult in the following 6 steps. 1. Remember. 2. Understand. 3. Apply. 4. Analyze. 5. Evaluate. 6. Create. On the first level, we learn to remember. There is just rote memorization and recollection of facts without much understanding. For example, if we learn about lemons, we want to remember the name, shape, color, size, and that they are sour. Once we memorize these essentially meaningless facts, we move to the second level of learning. On level 2, we learn to understand. We begin to decode information and learn that a lemon is yellow when it's ripe to eat, and if we take a bite, that it's really super sour. We also understand that lemons love sunshine and that they contain lots of vitamin C, which is a great natural antioxidant that keeps us healthy. Now, as we really understand a lemon, we can work with it. On the third level, we apply what we know. We've understood that while lemons are sour, they are also a great provider of vitamin C. To apply this knowledge in a meaningful way, we could boil a lemon into hot water and add some honey. Then serve this hot lemon to our sick sister who's in need of treatment. On the fourth level, we learn to analyze. This involves examining and breaking down information into components, determining how the parts relate to one another, and finding evidence to support generalizations. We study the lemon flesh, examine the skin, and look at levels of vitamins. We conclude that we can eat everything inside, while the skin tastes bitter and contains traces of toxic pesticides. It ought not to be consumed. Now we are ready to evaluate. We analyze, critique, and compare. To evaluate our lemon as a good source of vitamins, we compare it to other sources, such as oranges and supplements. We look at the following properties: vitamin levels, affordability, taste, and packaging waste. If we evaluate our thoughts critically and without bias, we learn where the lemons score high and where others score higher. Now, after we have learned, understood, applied, analyzed, and evaluated, we are ready to create. As we now really understand lemons, also in comparison to similar things, we can formulate a plan to create our own natural lemonade. It's now easy to come up with a cute shop design, a good name, and a good slogan: natural, healthy, yummy. Bloom's taxonomy was first created in 1946 by American psychologist Benjamin Bloom. The revised version from 2001, as just presented, serves as the backbone of many teaching philosophies, in particular those that aim towards teaching specific skills. Each level usually comes with a clear learning objective that can be tested. Critics of the taxonomy often question the existence of a sequential, hierarchical link between each level. What are your thoughts? Please share them in the comments below.
So it's okay now.
Millions.
It's okay now, Mr. Bay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, can you confirm if you saw the video other than heard the audio? I heard the video, but I didn't see, I heard the audio, but I didn't see the video. Right. So questions. The next activity I have for you is actually going to assess how well you have listened to this video. Now, I'm going to display another PowerPoint slide that would ask you some very simple questions about Bloom's taxonomy and exactly what has been, similar questions to what you have heard. But the presenter said something at the end of this video. He said that we have, a hierarchy with levels. The framework is hierarchical. So it starts from the lowest to the highest. So people have questioned, must you start from the lowest to the highest? So that's something to think about. As a teacher, have you had a situation where a child in your class was unable to access very simple questions, but was able to access, apply, evaluate? What are your thoughts? Please type in the chat room. This is an opportunity for us to think critically. This is one of the reasons why the first Bloom's taxonomy was revised, because people had questions. And this is a question I'm asking. I have that question. So I want to hear from fellow teachers. What do you think? Have you experienced this? What did you do? Please, let's go to the chat room. Let's all look at what we have there because I will be reading. I want to learn from everyone. Please keep your responses coming in. The children were not able to assimilate because the teaching was taught, I can't really see this, taught from simple to complex. Okay, it was not taught from simple to complex. Please can you edit so that I can understand what you have written? You now said, repeat the question again, okay. I can see another response here. Please, we're trying to unravel a question I have posed. I have asked the question that as teachers, have you had a situation where you experienced that you give class task and a child or children were unable to attempt the very simple questions, but they were able to easily access the higher order questions? What did you do if you have experienced this? Please kindly type in the chat room. I'm going and I'm checking your responses. Am I still in this meeting, please? If I'm still here, somebody should just unmute and say hello.
Oh, yes, we can still hear you. We can hear and see.
All right, thank you. Learning or teaching doesn't have to be sequential, okay? Another opinion is here, learning or teaching doesn't have to be sequential. So the Bloom's taxonomy doesn't have to be in a strict linear format. Yes, such a situation could happen because of the individual differences. So the taxonomy could actually be at any level. Simple to complex, known to unknown, that's the order. I changed the method of teaching. What did you change it to? I think that's from Suleiman. Well, I love all these responses I'm getting. Yeah, we'll come back to this. So now I have something in front of you. I would like you to attempt this quiz. So quickly type your responses as you get them in the chat box. Now, we're going to be asking you some questions to check your understanding of what you have learned so far. So the instruction is that you have a particular level of Bloom's taxonomy and some verbs that should describe the level of Bloom's taxonomy. So what you're supposed to do is identify the verb that should not be there. The verb that should not be there. This is an example. So the first level is remembering. So that means verbs for remembering includes bookmarking, matching, recalling, and writing. So the answer is writing is a bit higher, so it shouldn't be on the level for remembering. That's why the word writing has been highlighted. Now, I'm going to start the activity, and you just have to quickly put your answer in before I display the correct response. So please, let's start. First question. Remembering, what's your answer? What's your answer? I'm going to count 1 to 10. I get the responses in the chat room, and I'll move on to the next question. 1, 2. Mr. Bayomi, could you help me check responses, please, if we're getting them in? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I haven't seen any response yet. Mr. Bayomi.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know I was muted. So there's a lot of copying, finding, hypothesis, copying,
Okay.
hypothesis.
Okay. Right. So let's get the right answer. Hypothesizing, it's higher level. It's not under remembering. So let's go on. So if you got it right, give yourself a pat on the back. So let's go to understanding. I'm going to count 1 to 10. Put your words quickly. Which word, which vocabulary, which verb should not be here? Annotating, indicating, computing, summarizing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
computing, annotating, summarizing, computing, indicating, summarizing, computing, annotating, a lot of annotations, summarizing, computing, annotating, summarizing, indicating.
Okay, so the
Annotating.
feedback you're giving is giving me a level of understanding as to how well you know your Bloom's taxonomy and the vocabulary. Because the answer is computing, and I didn't see enough of that. So let's go on to the next level, applying. So pick the word that should not be there. Let's go. Numbering, presenting, experimenting, explaining.
Numbering, a lot of numberings.
Okay.
Explaining, experimenting, numbering, experimenting.
The instruction is to pick the verb that should not be there.
Be there.
Yeah.
Explaining, experimenting, numbering.
So the answer is numbering. I'm happy that we had quite a number of people mention right numbering. So the next one is analyzing. Let's have it. Let's have your words, please. What's it? Is it illustrating? Is it estimating? Is it mind mapping? Is it solving?
Estimating, illustrating, solving, mind mapping, not popping. Illustrating, estimating, solving. Okay. Estimating, mind mapping, solving.
Okay.
Solving, estimating, illustrating, solving, mind mapping.
I'm happy. I think we're getting somewhere.
Mapping, solving. Okay.
You're solving, you're not analyzing anything there. Right. So evaluating. What's the word that should not be there?
So accessing, annotating, scoring, annotating, a lot of annotating, assessing, solving. And there's no solving, it's scoring, annotating.
Scoring, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of annotating here, scoring, a lot of annotating. Okay.
Well done. So we're going to the last level, creating. What word should not be there? This should be easy peasy.
Role playing, describing, podcasting, describing and podcasting, filming, podcasting, describing, describing, a lot of describing, podcasting.
Well, I like the sound of that.
Describing, a lot of describing.
So my feedback is this. We all need to go back and listen to that video. We will send the link to you. It's available free online. We also need to make an effort to have a copy of the Bloom's Taxonomy framework with the vocabulary so that you get yourself familiar with them. From the feedback I can see in the chat room, we need to do this. Some people not, some people do, but then everyone should learn to read. We should all go and do it. So well done.
Bloom's Tax.
Am I the one sharing now, Mr. Bayomi?
No, you are sharing.
Oh, okay. I'm almost confused right now. Right, so let's move on now very quickly to our learning objectives. So at the end of this session, we should be able to differentiate learning activities to cater to diverse learners' needs by scaffolding tasks from simple to complex. We should be able to design assessments using Bloom's taxonomy to evaluate students' understanding at multiple cognitive levels. We should be able to develop lesson plans incorporating activities at each level of Bloom's taxonomy. We should also be able to implement strategies to foster critical thinking and problem-solving skills using higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. The higher levels I'm referring to are analyze, evaluate, and create. Now, I haven't said that the other three levels are not important. They are very important, as a matter of fact, because the truth is, you need to have foundation to build up on something. Now, what I have in front of you are the two framework we have. The first one that was published in 1956 by Benjamin Bloom and a team of psychologists, and the one that was published in 2001 by his students. So you see, there were arguments over the first one, and based on questions, they analyzed, they critiqued it, and they came up with a better version. Now, this version we have, it's obvious that there are differences from the words you can see. Now, I have put the answer clearly there. The words from noun were all changed to verb. If we're checking cognition and we know that we're looking at action words, why are we using nouns in the Bloom's taxonomy hierarchy? So the words were changed from nouns to verbs. And also the evaluation and synthesis were swapped, and synthesis was changed to create. So the first, the one in 1956 has knowledge at the lowest level of Bloom's taxonomy, but the revised version has remember. And then the older version has comprehension, while the revised one has understand. You can see it clearly here. As we move on along, as we have this training, you will sometimes have to decipher where we have the old Bloom's taxonomy being used and where we have the new revised version being used. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. And I had asked initially, how do you use Bloom's taxonomy? Do you use them in planning your lesson? How intentional are you? Do you take your time to ensure that the vocabulary you're using is actually commensurate to the level of the children in your classroom? Do you have a copy of the Bloom's taxonomy framework on your table, beside your chair, somewhere handy, so that anytime you have to plan your lesson, you have something to refer to? Do you have it somewhere in your phone so that anytime you want to refer to it, you can actually have access to it? If you do not, you have to do that today. That's your first action plan. Now, the question I have for you before we go on is, why do we have to use the Bloom's taxonomy? I'd like to see a response to that, actually. Why? Why the Bloom's taxonomy? Is it beneficial? How would it help us? I would like to read your responses. Mr. Bayomi, I'm sorry, I'm struggling with my network, so if I see some responses there, that will be quite helpful. Mr. Bayomi, are you still in the meeting or am I still in the meeting?
Yes. Yes, you are still in the meeting.
So please kindly type in your chat room. Tell me why we use Bloom's taxonomy. Why do we need to use it? Is it useful? So I'm waiting for your responses, please.
Yeah, there are for differentiated learning. It helps to simplify teaching, helps us plan well for each learner, to check the better understanding of the lessons from the pupils. It's a journey to train children who will innovate. We use Bloom's taxonomy to be able to reach out to different children with different abilities, to measure the effectiveness or otherwise of a teaching method, to enhance students' learning, serves as a guide in delivering learning competencies for differentiated learning, yeah, and so on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. And well done, everyone. Well done. Honestly, I think the first benefit I read up was that the first time Benjamin Bloom published the Bloom's taxonomy, teachers were so excited because it made learning objectives easier for them. They could actually structure how they could generate their learning objectives. They are supposed to, initially they were struggling with, the right words to use, but they had an understanding. I have this group of children in my class. How best can I help them? Now the framework was able to guide them. Now, another thing the framework can do is help the children know how to think. As a teacher, it also guides you on how you are thinking. It checks how you are thinking as a teacher. You can't give what you don't have. So you can't be a teacher in a classroom and challenge the children when you haven't even challenged yourself. So it's very important that this tool, this framework, is a document you use for yourself and for the children in your class. So I asked the question in the beginning. That's the beginning. That's one of the aspects we're looking at, critical thinking. Please, if you are unmuted, kindly mute. Critical thinking. So we need to challenge the children in a zone where they're able to think and give us responses, rich responses that shows deep understanding. So the question I have for you today, what kind of teacher are you? Are you the remembering teacher? The understanding teacher? So when children get to your class, the best you can give to them will be to remember. When children come to your class, the best you can give to them and where you can help them get to is to understand. This is a rhetorical question. I want you to think about it so that when next you're planning your lesson, you will ask yourself, is this the best I can do? Is this how much I can push the children? Can I get them to challenge themselves even further? What activities can I plan to encourage them to think? What kind of activities, what kind of questions will I ask to help the children know that I'm free to express myself without being rude? How will I coin that question? What kind of question are you going to ask such that that child's skill, that child's abilities will show and actually would exceed his or her own expectations? Do you think about that when you plan your lesson? If you do not, you really have to start doing that from today. I had an opportunity to visit a school. So we went on a learning walk. We had a target that day to check learning objectives. So we had a plan because we wanted to check learning objectives and we wanted to enter at least 20 classrooms. We knew the time, the strategic time to get into those classrooms, because when you have learning objectives in some schools, they don't have them displayed all through the lesson. So we didn't want to miss out. So we knew when to get into those classrooms. We divided ourselves as leaders. We went into the different classes. And when we came back, we all had the same narrative. The lesson objectives were identify, list, was describe or explain. So the question I asked the teachers at that time was that this school, parents bring their children here, hoping that at the end of a certain period, their children will actually be better than they are. And then the highest you are getting the children to is to understand. So this is an opportunity for you to think as teachers. Is that the highest you can get your children to understand? I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but they can get that online. They have access to the internet. The first 3 levels of Bloom's taxonomy is very easy for children to actually teach themselves. So if you're that teacher, you're on this platform, and you haven't been able to improve on your learning objectives, please ensure that it stops today. Because this is an opportunity for you to reflect and remember that times have changed. I strongly believe even this revised version will get to be reviewed even further because these children have access to information. So they can actually access the majority of what we have here now without you being in class. Now, when you're in class teaching them, where can you get them to? How far can you push them with support? And that should take you to ask yourself, where am I as a teacher? So this is just a brief summary of all we have seen in the video, heard in the video, and talked about. The fact that the first framework was published in 1956, another was published in 2001, the changes from noun to verb and synthesis to create. Yeah, all that is what we have on this slide. Now, I have a few words here just to tell you the benefits of using Bloom's taxonomy. You have an opportunity to differentiate effectively. You'll be able to get your children's you'll be able to help your children get their metacognition to the highest level, so they are able to think about their thinking. They are able to get to a level where they are independent. The minute you can get them there, you have achieved. You have, somebody mentioned innovation, fantastic. Effective lesson planning, you've all said it. Your lesson plan will be more effective if you use Bloom's taxonomy. Critical thinking, you get the children to think. They leave your classroom knowing that you have empowered them. They are able to think beyond what they initially thought. They're able to think beyond what somebody had shared with them. You are able to take them to a higher order of thinking. You're able to give them an opportunity to be creative because you haven't limited them in your questioning. You have used words that got them comfortable enough to express how they actually feel about your questions, and then took them off their comfort zone to a point where they are able to be creative. You've been able to get them to collaborate because of the effective activities you have in your classroom. Now they can collaborate, they can communicate effectively, share their thoughts. In the course of sharing your thoughts, you're able to refine what you think, you're able to get more information from the person you're speaking with, and you're supposed to live actually richer than you came. Now, deeper understanding, I've been talking about it as well, curiosity. There are questions you ask students in your class. When they leave your class, they will continue the research because of how much you've been able to push them. Skill development, because of the activities you give them, that gives them an opportunity to go beyond what you have given them. You're helping them build skills. You're helping them build collaboration skills, communication skills, much more I can't even begin to mention. So let's start with lesson planning. We've all been talking about lesson planning. We use them in our lesson plans. But if I pick up, or if you pick up your lesson plan when you get back home today, I want you to go and evaluate your lesson plan. Check your lesson objectives. Let me tell you something. If I pick up my lesson plan a year ago, I will be able to review my learning objective. That tells you that there's no perfect one. But what I would expect is that I'll be better than I was yesterday. So pick up your lesson plan, look at your learning objectives. How did you cater to the needs of the children in your classroom? How were you able to differentiate? How were you able to challenge the children? How were you able to scaffold learning from them, moving them from low to higher order thinking? Don't forget, the essence of one of the purpose of Bloom's taxonomy is to be able to get children to the higher order of thinking. You can't limit children to describing, explaining, defining, identify, list, enumerate. We can't. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So when planning your lesson, you use the Bloom's taxonomy to structure your activities. So you see, when you pick up that Bloom's taxonomy, beside each one, you'd have the vocabulary to describe each level of Bloom's taxonomy. And that would help you plan your lesson. So I want us to look at integrating real-world problems in your lesson plan. So when you're planning your lesson, how well does it align with the curriculum? How well does it align with the cognitive level of the children you're teaching? As a leader, you may go into a year 4 class to check what the teacher is teaching. The teacher could actually be teaching fraction. And then you go to a year 5 class to check fraction as well. And you may be shocked to find out that the level of difficulty is actually the same in the 2 classes. And you're wondering, why? Let's forget about 2 classes. In a particular class you go into, year 4 class, for example, there are maybe 20 children in that classroom, and the teacher is just teaching linear. There's just one thing the teacher is teaching everybody. And then you see a few of them, maybe 5 of them feeling uncomfortable, pranking in the class, playing. Why? Why are you playing? You go to the child's note, you open the child's note. Excuse me, sir, I'm done. They are done. They are bored in your class because you do not know your children. Knowledge of the learner is important. If you know the children you have with you, you know how to plan for them. So if you have 5 kids that are exceptional, they are smart, they can access these questions easily, what plan did you have for them in your lesson plan? Did you cater to them? If you did, they will not be playing in your class when you're teaching. When you ensure that you are able to involve questions that will get them to analyze, get them to think, get them to create, you will help them deepen their understanding. I was sharing in a particular group I was with, and I said to them, we had this collaborative lesson planning session where computer science teachers were planning their lessons with maths department teachers. And you see, there was a link, or there are links between maths and computing. And at the end of the day, what will happen when you have such a lesson plan? The children will go into maths class and they're able to relate some things that computer science teacher is teaching in the classroom. So when you work collaboratively, you are able to come up with questions, project-based learning that will get the children off their comfort zone, that will get them to be able to use the skills they have. They will be able to create things, their imagination, bring them to life, because you have asked them questions that got them thinking. You have asked them questions that made them feel like I have an opportunity to actually express myself. You will get them to have a deeper understanding of what you have taught them. Let's look at the video. An example, a simple example of lemon. Imagine where it can get a child to be able to create lemonade. You see, we always hear that phrase, but you see, it's important we think about it. Imagine getting to a point where you're able to understand that the skin of the lemon is not so good because, of course, what happens? They use chemicals. These chemicals, where do they go to? How do they affect this fruits that we eat? The children are getting an opportunity to think. The child could compare a lemon with a lime. What are the differences between a lemon and a lime? The child can actually think and compare between lemon, lime, oranges. What are the differences? How are they similar? The child will link that to classification. The child will think deep. Imagine you're teaching photosynthesis and you tell a child to write a story about photosynthesis. Can you imagine where you get that child to? Creativity will be at its top notch because you've given the child an opportunity to go beyond what you have exposed them to. And I want us to look at simple examples. So what I've done here is I have brought an objective for each of the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Let's look at them together and let's look at the objectives we can coin. It's just a sample. So this is not the beginning, neither is it the end. So for remembering example now, this topic is photosynthesis. Define the term photosynthesis. That's the lowest level of Bloom's taxonomy. Please, my dear teachers, do you think you need to teach a child to define photosynthesis? Like, you don't need to, because they can actually read it up in their textbook. They don't need you to learn how to define photosynthesis. So one way you can actually make it exciting, I've said provide a list of key terms. Just bring those words, very important words that will make up the definition for photosynthesis. You put the words there, all cut out on flashcards, and tell the children to pick the words that will help them define photosynthesis. Guess what? You're getting them to think. And you would have mixed those words with other words that are not linked to photosynthesis. So they get an opportunity to think. It could be a group activity, and they're asking questions. Do you think this word is necessary, is important in crafting the definition for photosynthesis? You could conduct a quiz. I've talked about the flashcard activity. You could conduct a quiz for them. So you don't necessarily, this is not an objective that you have to spend the better part of your lesson for. It's an objective that the children can achieve on their own. So the question teachers is, when you're teaching a topic like that, all your objectives is now under identify, list, states. You have left that child on the first level of Bloom's taxonomy. Let's move further. Now we want to move photosynthesis further. Now you've moved to understanding level. Here you said, explain the importance of photosynthesis to plant life. They've looked at definition of photosynthesis. Now you want to get them. Do they even understand what that definition means? Because that definition tells a story. So you get them to use their own words to explain to you the importance of photosynthesis to plants. In the course of doing that, they will begin to understand the statement that make up the definition for photosynthesis. So for them to show you they understand, let them create a flow chart to illustrate the stages that are involved in photosynthesis. That will get them to understand the definition they have given to you. If you don't create an opportunity for that, all they are going to do all the time is define photosynthesis to you without really understanding what photosynthesis is about. Don't forget, for children to understand, they need to use their own words to explain to you. That shows understanding. The first activity, you gave them words. The second one, in your own words, explain photosynthesis. Now we're moving to apply. Now the objective here says, perform an experiment to observe the effect of light on photosynthesis in plants. Now you want to do that. I'm sure science teachers, you all know the experiment. You have plants, one in the cupboard, one close to the window, one right, where there's enough sunlight. But the one close to the window is a bit, is a bit off the sunlight. So you have 3 positions. The children will be coming every day and you're asking them to check. They write their observation. Eventually they will see what this is about. So it's not about what is written in the textbook. It's not about what they have read. It's about what they have experienced. What's the effect? So they have this conversation. So why do you think this is happening this way? Oh, in the course of having that class discussion, in the course of looking at the observations, they will get to be able to apply, oh my God, that's the reason why plants, tend to divert this way because of this. That's the reason why the color of leaves are like this, because they do not have, you see, they begin to explain what they have seen. They're applying it. Oh, the last time a plant in the sitting room changed color or the plants did not grow well, I understand. Maybe that plant actually is not an indoor plant. That plant may actually require more light. That plant needs to be placed. They begin to ask questions. They begin to find answers to their questions because you have given them an opportunity to do that. Now, let's go further to analyzing the same topic. Now, analyze the result of an experiment to determine the relationship between light intensity and the rate of photosynthesis. See where you have moved away to. You have moved away from just light to light intensity. So you are giving them an opportunity to think even deeper. So I'm challenging everybody on this platform today. Do you do this? Do you get the children to get to this level? Guide them to compare their experiments, guide them to have that conversation, guide them to share their thoughts. Move on again to evaluating. Assess the effectiveness of different variables in the photosynthesis process. So they now look at the equation for photosynthesis. In short, do we have enzymes involved? What is actually making the process, the reaction occur? Is there anything limiting the reaction? What do we need to? They're asking questions. They're looking at the equation. They're questioning everything. And they're able to tell. There was a question, there was a video I watched. I usually would ask this question. I think a set of researchers went to MIT. This video was done so many years ago, and they wanted to ask the graduates where does soil come from? Sand, where does it come from? They asked them, they said, okay, let's look at photosynthesis. I mean, where does the stem, the trunk, that's, you have wood, you have a big tree. Initially, in the beginning, you planted a seed. That seed sprouted and grew into a tree. So the question is, I want you to visualize a pot, a potted plant. After 2 years, that potted plant would actually tear off that pot if it's a plastic pot, or break if it's a clay pot. You have to transfer that plant to another location, and that plant will grow into a big tree. But when you question yourself, there's no significant difference in the soil around that particular plant. So the question they asked those students on that day was, where does wood come from? Guess what? The answer is actually in the equation of photosynthesis. But they couldn't answer. Do you know why? Because the teachers did not take time to give them an opportunity to think, to analyze, to evaluate that simple equation of photosynthesis. So you see, we need to ensure that we give children an opportunity to think, to question what we're doing. And we as teachers, we also need to question what we're doing. So at the end of the day, when you want to create, tell the children to design their own experiments, to test a new hypothesis. They could come up with a hypothesis. Design an experiment to question the hypothesis, test it. What will be the outcome? You're getting the children to create. And often when you talk about creation, teachers are thinking of all the time, I want to create something 3D. No, not necessarily. You want to write. You want to think of something. You want to bring a new idea, innovate. So I'm asking you today, teachers, where are you? Are you the remembering teacher or are you the understanding teacher? And that's where your children will remain. So I'm asking you this question today. After today's session, what would your lesson be like? Will you be able to challenge the children to move beyond remembering, understanding, and applying? Like I said to you, they have their textbooks for the majority of these things. What will be the impact you have when you teach your children? Now let's look at critical thinking. We started off with critical thinking when we looked at the fact that Bloom's taxonomy is hierarchical and it's expected that it's known to unknown, and you're supposed to build on it. But then we have situations in our classrooms where you give a child a task to do and the child is struggling with that task. Or you give a higher level task and the child is able to access it. Where's the problem? What's the challenge there? What do we do? And we got wonderful responses from everyone. I want us to take a time to break in this session now. I want us to put a word. I want to put a word, give you a word. And that word, you will coin a question, an objective, and drop in the chat room. So I want to teach about, I'm thinking of what I want to teach you. So I have 2 words. So the one I want to teach my students about PISA. So give me one objective, either from evaluate or from create in the chat room. I will be looking now. Another topic I'm thinking I want to teach my children about. Someone should give me a topic in history or social studies. Someone should give me a topic in history or social studies that we can create objectives on. Very quickly, please. I'm going into the chat room now. So please, I'm giving the word pizza. You're teaching now. Okay, someone said, okay, no. Colonial rule. I like that. Colonial rule. Right. So give me a learning objective, colonial rule, and the learning objective has to be either on evaluate or on create. So I'm in the chat room right now. I can see people are already responding. That's not a learning objective, I believe. So I have students will design their own unique pizza recipe. Oh, I love this. I love this. They will design their own pizza recipe, incorporating at least 3 different food groups. Well done. Well done. I just love that. That's Eniton. Oh, well done. Well done, Eniton. Oh, that's fantastic. Let's see. Under history, I have failure of Brigadier General. Brigadier General Babangida military administration. So I don't think that's an objective. So let's pick a spicy pizza which added preservatives apart from the ones I can't make this out. Apart from the ones we usually use. This is a bit lengthy. Abdullah, you've really tried, but coin it a bit so that it's straight to the point and clear. And it's really, really important. I can see that you are striving toward creation. Students will create a recipe book featuring innovative pizza creation. Wow, I love that as well. Write a story of pizza meal. Write a story of a pizza meal last week. That's a bit unclear. If you add some words, that will make it clearer, but I think I like where you're going to with that. To divide pizza into different parts. Wow, I'm seeing wonderful responses here. So should I? It's almost like I shouldn't move from this activity. It's really, really interesting. So well done, everyone. I really must clap for you. Well done, well done. So let me tell you what. Let me see. Students will justify their ingredient choice based on the flavor profiles, nutritional value, and oh my God, this is a big one. Well done, peace, well done, peace, well done, peace. You can break that down into like 3 different objectives. Create a scrapbook. Oh, I like that. That will really go for infant school. Wow. Honestly, I can't get over what you guys are giving me here. Well done, well done. And let me just quickly add. Sometimes when we talk about Bloom's taxonomy, teachers teaching in infant school, nursery school, you sometimes feel it's not for you. Really, critical thinking starts from, from that age. So you are not exempt from this. You have to give them an opportunity. You have to be mindful of the vocabulary, the questions you ask them. Give them an opportunity to be able to express themselves, to ask questions, to question things, and, you know, guide them towards finding answers to these things. So it's very important that infant school teachers, nursery school teachers, you realize that Bloom's taxonomy, it starts from there. It's not for primary or secondary school teachers alone. No, for all our children and for all our teachers. Now, encouraging critical thinking through higher order thinking skills. This is all I've been talking about. Is all I've been talking about since we started. Bloom's taxonomy provides a framework for crafting questions and tasks that stimulate intellectual curiosity. Sometimes you observe lessons and you see at the end of the lesson, the class activity is so accessible that, yes, it should be accessible. It's so easy that everyone, at least everyone will score 10 over 10. The question comes to play, how challenging were your questions? And before you ask that question, then you pick the lesson plan and check what the learning objectives were like. Because truly, that tells everything. If your learning objectives are not structured enough to support and challenge the children, then truly, you're not ready to support the children. They will score 10 over 10, but at the end of the day, they haven't learned anything in your class. But they have scored 10 over 10 because what you're assessing them on is actually below their level and doesn't give an opportunity to give them to learn anything new. Because what you're asking yourself after every lesson is what would my children learn that is new? What new learning will take place? What new skill will they pick? What new opportunity? What new door would you open? What insight, something new would you give to them? What will they be looking forward to the next time you're going to have a lesson with them? How many students come to you and say, Mr. John, you know, last week after that lesson, when I got home, I decided to go do some more work. These are the things I discovered. If you have children doing that with you, then kudos, because you've been able to push them to a point where they started thinking of what you taught them outside your lesson. And they weren't just thinking of what you taught them, they were thinking of something more. So they went further. Kudos to you. Now let's move on. Now I think I've skipped, okay. So in order to get to this higher level, I have this vocabulary here. I've been talking about Bloom's taxonomy and the vocabulary. This is an example. This framework is available online and free. Download a copy and have it close to you. So this is an example of evaluate and synthesis. Don't forget, synthesis has been changed to words. Please put it in the chat room. What's the new word for synthesis? And what's the position of synthesis? The new word for synthesis and the position, and then the new word for evaluate. Please put in the chat room. Mr. Bayomi, please, can you help me check the words in the chat room? What's the new revised version of synthesis?
Create.
Fantastic. So where is evaluate? What's the number on the level? What level is evaluate? And what level is create? What's number 5 for what?
5, 2,
5 for what? Did it
evaluate.
create or evaluate?
I think evaluate is on the 5th
2
level.
is not correct.
5,
Evaluate is
5.
correct, and create is on the 6th level. Well done.
Yeah,
Well done.
create is on the 6th level.
So, I'm so happy we've been able to achieve you being able to generate objectives that will really get the children to think and create and also evaluate. I'm excited about that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, just so you see the vocabulary you can use, and let's move on. So this is an opportunity for children to think critically. I'm just going to use one of them. Now, this is biology again, and it's on photosynthesis. We're looking at analysis. How will the process of photosynthesis be affected if a plant were placed under green light instead of white light? Imagine that. So imagine the children will have to compare. The children will have to do a lot of findings. They have to think, and they will now have to apply to what they see in their environment. The things they've read in their textbooks, how can they understand these things? So you see, this is important that you get children to think. Think about the questions you ask them. These questions go beyond what you put on the board for them to respond to, the verbal questions you ask in class. Now, I want to explain this activity for you. Now, this activity is called specify. You see, when you're teaching in class, children may not know the error they are making. And the biggest mistakes we make as teachers is when we don't help them or insist that they identify that mistake and they correct the mistake. Now, this is an activity that will help you reach there. Ask students to review their work and analyze. So I've done my work. You want me to review it and analyze it where they have not been specific. So it can be a peer activity. Read it where I've given a response. So for example, children take exams and they come out of the exam hall. How was the exam? Oh, it was fantastic. It was sweet. I did so well. But guess what? The result comes out and it's not as well as they thought they did. Why? They were not specific in the majority of their responses. And I can tell you that challenge is because the teacher has not been helping them, redirected them, or told them what to do differently. So for you to help children with that, they must look at their work and they must explain to you why they have not been specific. They should now rewrite the work. And then in addition, let you know how the new work and the previous one they did are different and how we can make it better. So I have not been specific in my response to you. I've been vague. And that's the major problem we struggle with when children respond to us. Now, why we use vague? Try and be specific so the child rewrites that work. Now you now ask the child, so what difference does it make? When the child is giving you that feedback, I can assure you one thing, learning has taken place. So now I'm going to move on very quickly to Mr. Bayomi is telling me that I don't have time again. I want to go on to, I'm going to come back to metacognition, but I want to go on to this. When children come into your class, if you tell them that they should tell their neighbor all they know, all their thoughts about the topic you want to teach today, guess what? The children may possibly actually teach you 50% of the topic you want to teach for that day. So let me ask you as teachers, so why don't you give them the opportunity to think and bring out everything, bring forward. You see, as teachers, our job is not to pour on the children. Our job is actually bring out from the children. So ask them to tell their neighbor everything they know about pizza, everything they know about the colonial era. The minute you say they should do that, you'll start hearing information you never knew about, feedback you didn't know about, analysis, their own thoughts about that topic. Why deny them the opportunity when you can get them to learn even better? So when you tell children to do that, they start talking about that, they begin to bring out what they know. And then what do you do as a teacher? Then you can now encourage them by now adding on to it and getting even more from them. And then they combine everything together and they give you something excellent. What you don't want to do is get into class and start dishing out. No, you're impacting knowledge. No, these kids have access to the internet. They have access to devices. They have information that you probably do not have. So get them to think, get them to bring out what they have, and get them to be able to utilize what they have, innovate them, be original, bring out their own thoughts, review what they have, and refine what they have with you. And that is going to get us to where I want to talk about metacognition. Metacognition is an opportunity, is a level where a child is able to think about their own thinking. A child should be able to respond as to why he or she made a mistake, what they can do differently next time. When a child gets to that point, then you've been able to work with the child to a point where the child is independent. So what we really need is to get children to a point where they are mini teachers. You're getting them to be mini teachers. They can think and say, oh my God, how did I make this mistake? They can retrace their steps to identify where the mistake came from and what they can do differently to ensure that that mistake doesn't occur again. That's where we want to get the children to. We want to get the children to the higher order of thinking. So I've been emphasizing higher order of thinking since we started this session. I haven't said the other first three levels are not important, but in your lesson, you must be able to get children to the higher order of thinking. Mr. Abayomi.
Yes, ma'am.
So my slide is not showing again. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. Let me help.
So that's where we need to get to when it comes to Bloom's taxonomy. We need to get the children to get to that point where they can think, where they can express themselves, where they can think about why and give you the reasons why they chose an answer, give you the reasons why they did not choose a particular response, because they know what they're doing. That's where you want to get them to. You want to get children to a point where for them to collaborate will be very easy because you're giving them opportunity to have pair talk, think, pair share, activities like that to get them to understand, make meaning of what they are thinking. You give them opportunities to write down their thoughts. Imagine the example I gave you about writing about photosynthesis. It goes beyond just writing the equation. They're going to apply what you're writing in real life situation. They're going to link it to the vegetable soup their mom cooked at home. They're going to link it to the fruits. They're going to link it to everything about them. Give children an opportunity to think and be able to improve on their thinking level and get to a point where they are mini teachers. Mr. Bayami, I've gone past here. Please move on. Move on. Okay, so I'm going to, I want to talk about differentiation, yes. So in your classes, I think I mentioned a scenario like this. Assuming you have 20 children in your class and you want to teach your topic for that day, I want you to visualize, do you think everybody in your class will be on the same level in terms of what they already know about what you want to teach? Do you think that? Do you think that these children in your class, you can put them into groups in terms of where they are at? So I'm about to teach this topic. This is how much I think this group of children already know about it. This is how much I think this group of children already know about this topic. Will that help you define what your objectives should look like? Will that help you define how you're going to plan your lesson? Will that help you structure your lesson in such a way that you're considering that you possibly have 3 different groups in that classroom and you're going to teach a topic? As you're teaching that topic and a set of children in the class, they already know what you're talking about. Each other, as you are talking, they are going beyond what you're saying because they are aware of what you're saying. They are bored with what you're saying. You're unable to interest them with what you're saying. How have you planned for this set of children in your class? How? When you give them class activity, will they score 10 over 10, 8 over 10, or earn all the marks? Will they do that? Were you able to challenge them? Those are questions you want to ask. That takes us to differentiation. And that takes us back again to the lesson objectives that you ought to use your Bloom's taxonomy to generate in order to be able to cater to the different ability levels in your classroom. So differentiation goes a lot more than this, but at this point, that starts exactly from your learning objectives. So for content, it starts from your learning objectives. If you don't consider the different children in your class, if you don't understand the children, knowledge of the learner, you don't know the children in your class, you can't plan for them. If you can't plan for them, you can't support them. And if you can't support them, it means they cannot grow in your class. It means you can't take them to where they ought to be, and they can't even exceed where they ought to be. So children have, every child should have their target. And when a child has a target, the child should meet and possibly exceed the target. So as teachers, our job is to help children meet their target and possibly exceed the target, because we have been able to equip them with skills that will get them to think, get them to challenge their thoughts, get them to challenge things they come across, and look for the best way forward. Children that will go online and see content and be able to tell you that this is not correct. Because of what I think, I don't think this statement is correct. Those are the kind of kids you need to have. You need to bring up in your classroom. Those are the kind of skills you need to teach your children so that they can excel. I'll just quickly get to the summary now. Mr. Bayami, I think penultimate page, I have the summary of this session. So when you're planning your assessment questions, you need to link them to the Bloom's taxonomy as well, and that also determines the weighting of your questions. So take, for example, imagine you set a question that says, define the term homeostasis, and you ask another question that says, how does taking alcohol, how do you link alcohol intake to homeostasis? And then you give marks for define the term homeostasis 3, and you also give how alcohol, the link between alcohol intake and homeostasis 3 marks as well. That doesn't work, because definition is not tasking at all. How would you link intake of alcohol and homeostasis? It's a lot for the child. It's on the fourth level of Bloom's taxonomy. The child, the mark awarded that question must be more than the mark awarded to the question that has to do with definition. So when you're setting your questions, you need to think about that. When you're setting your objectives, you need to think about that. What level are you? Finally, let me ask you again. I asked you in the beginning, what kind of teacher are you? Are you the remembering teacher or the understanding teacher? Is that where your children will, or is that the best you can help your children get to when they get to your classroom? To recall, to remember, and to understand? Is that the best you can do? Like I said earlier, the children can actually learn these things from their textbooks and from access to information online. So we really need to do better, check our lesson planning, ensure that our objectives are in line with the curriculum and in line with and challenging enough for the different category of children we have in our classrooms, ensure that the activities we have planned for the children will be in line with our learning objectives, and also challenge our children to want to go beyond what they already know, because you will use words, questions that will prick their interest and get them to move from their comfort zone. So in summary, Bloom's taxonomy is a framework that categorizes educational objectives into varying levels of complexity, from simple recall of facts to higher order thinking like analysis and creation. This integration allows teachers to design lessons that address both the content and the learning process, promoting a more holistic educational approach. The framework progresses from basic to complex. I talked about the scaffolding, complex thinking, enabling teachers to guide students from foundational knowledge to advanced cognitive tasks. By applying the Bloom's taxonomy, teachers can more effectively assess and enhance students' outcome across multiple dimensions. So that is our task. So we need to, if there's anything you must do differently, you must go and evaluate your last lesson plan, look at it, reflect, make sure your lesson plans for this session considers the children in your classroom. You use the Bloom's taxonomy vocabulary to ensure that there's differentiation when it comes to your learning objectives. Ensure that the activities you have planned are in line with your learning objectives and challenging enough for your children to be able to access and challenge them to move from one level to another. Ensure that your activities give the children an opportunity to collaborate in the classroom by having group tasks, by talking to a peer or a partner in class, by giving feedback, by discussing, by writing and putting their thoughts on paper, and being able to challenge the work of another person. Another thing you could do is to ensure that when you are checking children, you can have a standard paper. How many of you are here? You have examiner's report, you have sample exemplar papers. So when children attempt a task in class, you get them to look at it. You've evaluated your task. You've asked them, where were you not specific? The child will have an opportunity to reflect on his or her own writing. Okay, I probably wasn't specific here and there. Now be more specific. Now the child gets to correct his or her work. When the child gets to do that, that child has learned that the next time I'm responding, I have to be more specific so that I can earn the marks I ought to earn, and so I can learn even better. When you get a child to that level where the child is reflecting on their work and being able to identify their own way of thinking, giving reasons for why they have picked an answer over another answer, getting the children to be mini teachers, you're getting them you're getting to improve their level of metacognition. That's where we need to get our children to. At this point, I'll say thank you very much. Mr. Bayomi has told me that my time is up. I just want to see if I can take a few questions. Mr. Bayomi, how many minutes do I have to take questions?
10 minutes.
That's fine. Right, so I can take a few questions. So don't forget, teachers, things have changed. You are not the all-knowing that when you get to class, you are the one impacting, you are putting on. No, the children know a lot. So your job when you get to class is to teach them, but also to bring what they have inside out. Give them that platform to be able to ask questions, to be able to add, to be able to support when you're teaching, because they know a lot more than you actually think they do. I don't know if I can have, I don't think I have any questions coming.
There is one. One says, what is the correlation between Bloom's taxonomy and scaffolding learning?
Actually, Bloom's taxonomy and scaffolding are very similar because scaffolding is actually from simple to more complex. The idea of scaffolding is for you as a teacher to be able to provide support to a child, maybe a child that is struggling, and at some point, be able to withdraw that support and that child will be independent. Bloom's taxonomy, we're looking at teaching the child from low level to a higher level. So at some point, the child moves from low level to higher order thinking. That child that you're scaffolding for, at some point, the child is now so independent that the child doesn't even need your support any longer. I want you to visualize scaffold that we use, builders use when they want to paint, they want to do something, they have to use a scaffold to reach a height. So scaffolding means you're giving that some form of equity, support for a child to be able to access something with the mind that at some point you will withdraw that support. So you're scaffolding, you're starting from low, you're helping the child is building on, and at some point the child is totally independent. We've arrived to a level of high metacognitive skill. The child is on its own, the child is able to think, the child is able to give you reasons why certain decisions we are taking. That is a link between Bloom's taxonomy and scaffolding.
Okay, another question says, how can I help a child that doesn't retain lesson?
Well, I think when we repeat, repetition would help, but I dare say that you want to take your time to observe that child very well and also identify the child's learning style. What would help the child retain more? You want to know that. And if there's an opportunity for you to give more exciting tasks that will appeal to the child, that would help the child. Because if the child can link that activity, the learning to the activity will help the child. I often say to teachers, it's not about the activity you're giving to students, it's about the learning that will take place in the course of the activity. So take, for example, that child doesn't even find anything you're doing exciting. You need to find a way to be able to reach that child so that that thing that the child likes, you're able to use it to help the child to learn. I had a situation in my class where a child wasn't learning. The child will always be distracted, always, I tried, every time I'm planning, I keep thinking of him, but every time I go to class, I fail at it. Every time I go to class, I fail at it. And I kept asking myself, what more can I do? And a particular day, I now planned this lesson. I gave them a task, so they will go to, they had to go to a point to get information. They get to another point to feed in the information. And you know what? It didn't distract in my lesson. that was me. That was my bingo. I identified his way of learning, identified what interests him. And guess what? That was the beginning of learning for him in my class. So once you have identified the child's strength, use that strength to be able to help the child learn better. Also have repetition of work for the child. Make sure you carry parents along. Make sure you carry your line manager along. Most importantly, let the child know that you identify that the child needs support and you're giving him or her the support him or he or she would require.
Okay, so
Does
just
that
maybe
help?
like, I believe so. So due to time, we'll take maybe just two more questions. So someone says, can Bloom taxonomy be applied in teaching mathematics?
Yes, and yes. Unfortunately, I actually had an example of math question on my slide. I don't know if I could send that particular part of it to Mr. Bayome so he can share with you. But yes, of course, Bloom's. Let me give an illustration of Bloom's taxonomy using math. Take, for example, you want to teach a topic in maths that requires formula. And then the children being able to remember the formula is under remembering. So that's the lowest level of Bloom's taxonomy. They remember the formula. For them to understand the formula, they need to tell you what the terminology of each of the words or each of the terms, or what they stand for in the formula. So for example, if you have mass, is it mass over weight is equal to time, something like that. What does M stands for? What does V stands for? What does T stands for? If a child is able to now link what each term in that formula means, the child now understands the formula. Please let me take it again. For the remembering level, the child is able to recall the formula. If the child can recall the formula, that's remember. If the child is able to explain each term in that formula, that child is able to understand the formula. If the child is able to use the formula to solve problems, that child is applying the formula. Please, I don't know if you heard me. Oh, the person typed it, right?
Yes.
So that child is able to apply the formula. If this child is now able to look at that formula and look for patterns in the formula. Okay, sometimes you have change of subject formula. You know when you are going to have negative, when you place it on the left side or on the right side, you have to make decisions like that. That child is able to analyze. So yes, Bloom's taxonomy works for all subjects. Also, we can take it on to creation. At some point, you tell the children, now you create a problem and solve the problem using a particular formula. It cuts across all subjects. So that's just an example I can give you for math. We can do the same thing for all other subjects. So
all right, so the
that,
final question. Yeah, the final question. Someone says a case where the population in the class is large with little materials. What is the simplest way of achieving my objective with Bloom's taxonomy?
Let me tell you what. The first thing you need to do is knowledge of your learners. You need to know your learners. The minute you know your learners, you'll be able to put them in different groups. Once you have them in different groups, you will be able to strategize and know the activities they are doing at each point in time. You have 40, 50, 60 children in the classroom. And on this side, you have 20 of them that you know that they are high flyers. You don't need to worry about them. On this side, you have 30 of them that are calm. Once you give them classwork, they are flying. You already know that these 15, they need my support. So where you are going to place them in the class, you will be there with them. They require your support, so you are there. But the others are doing their work. You are differentiating the cost of your process, the cost of your content, and possibly the outcome. So you must know your learners. You must know where they are in the class, so that as you are teaching in the class, there won't be distraction because you have put the children that you need to be closer to you. The ones that can work independently are on their own. The ones that to a large extent, they are calm in nature, they sit on their own, you give them tasks they can do, you will not have to struggle with them. So once you can compartmentalize where the children will be, how you can support them, that will take care of that for you. Also, I always also tell teachers, if you want to ask questions in class and you want a fast way of getting responses from everyone, using a whiteboard is always a fast approach, AFL. But again, not everyone, like you said, limited resources. Not every school will provide whiteboard for the classes, and that's understandable. As a teacher, what you need to do is improvise. So what you can do is laminate plain white papers and have your markers. As the children come to your class, they pick their white laminated paper and a marker, sit down. When they are leaving, they drop it. You ask simple questions. Everyone writes on their marker and shows you at a glance, all 60 of your children, you will be able to see their answer at once. So there are so many strategies we can use to be able to tackle managing a very large class and be able to provide support. But the first thing is knowing your children, knowing that these children, this is the activity I have for them. These kids, these children, I have to sit with them in order to get them to be able to do their work. If you don't do that, what's going to happen is that at the end of the lesson, as everyone is going out, the majority of your children will not have attempted anything you taught them for the day. So in order not to have that, you'd have made sure that you have your group and you have your focus group, that's what we call that, and you have support plan for them. I hope that helps. Inspectors are I can see a question here. Inspectors are very aware of the existence and application of Bloom's taxonomy. The reason why I say this is, you see, we're also a school where inspectors come. And the last time we had NECO officials coming to Meadow Hall, they talk intelligently about Bloom's taxonomy. As a matter of fact, they explained at that point in time that the multiple choice questions were informed by the first 3 levels of Bloom's taxonomy, the multiple choice questions that are given to children in GS3 when they do their NECO exam. So they are very, very aware and they're quite knowledgeable about Bloom's taxonomy.
Okay, I believe that's all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mrs. Okewu. I think I learned quite a lot. Maybe I should go and be a teacher. Thank you so much, Ma. It was really, really educative. It was really impactful. And I'm sure everybody has taken 1 or 2 things away from here. For people whose hands are raised, I'm sorry we will not be able to take your comments. Reason being that we are supposed to, end this training by 11:45, so people can go about their normal businesses. People will have things to do on a Saturday. Thank you so much, Mrs. Okewu. Thank you. For everyone who is asking for our WhatsApp link, it's currently in the chat, so you can join through there. Just check the chat box. Every link for TTN is there. Social media is there. The groups are there. The feedback form is also being posted. So please, we would love to read your feedback. That would help us to, make our trainings better. So thank you so much for everyone that joined. Thank you so much. A lot of people have tried to also ask that, what is TTN about? So TTN basically is a multi-school supportive community of practice. It's a place where teachers support teachers. Our vision is basically to cultivate a dynamic and collaborative community of teachers who are dedicated to transforming teaching practice and students' learning, right? Our mission is to support, like I said, a supportive network among schools and teachers, right? And thereby they can share something that Dr. Wani coined as BRICS. So what is BRICS? BRICS is B for best practice, R for resources, I for innovative strategies, C for collaborative activities, K for knowledge and expertise, and S for successes, right? Our core values is continuous improvement, inclusive community, we are student-centered, we come up with innovative techniques for improvements, and we collaborate a lot, right? So basically, that's what TTN is about. We have an objective which we call the 4 Ps. If you're in marketing, there's also the 4 Ps, but we have the 4 Ps, which we've broken down to personal development, professional development, peer support and well-being, and professional identity. At the beginning, I made mention about how passionate Dr. Wani was to see teachers become professionals. So that's where professional identity speaks to. So thank you so much for everyone who has joined. Yes, the WhatsApp link is being posted, so you can join. Our LinkedIn is there, Facebook, Telegram, it's all being posted in the chat box. So please do well to follow, and you'll be accepted in. There are benefits when you become a paid subscriber. That would be explained more on the chat groups. The feedback form is up. We'd love to hear your feedback from this session. Thank you so much. Thank you. And with this, I wish you all a very good